So today we're going to learn about 2-point perspective. Hopefully we've already done 1-point perspective. I personally would not be moving on to 2-point perspective without introducing 1-point perspective. So 2-point perspective has some similarities to 1-point perspective, as we should see the horizon line. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. I'm going to use a 2H pencil. Hopefully you can see this okay. If not, I'll adjust it, and I might have to go to an HB just so you can see it. But anytime you are drawing, you want to make sure that you are drawing very lightly. You never want to draw dark because you never know what's going to happen. You can always go back and make something darker, but when you go dark right off, you know, it's harder to erase. If it even erases. So I'm going to go with a 2H pencil. I'm going to get my horizon line going across my paper. Okay. I'm going to draw a little darker just so you guys can see it. I'll just have to be confident in my line so I don't have to erase much. We also need a ruler. We got to make sure we have a ruler. I always have an eraser, have a 2H and an HB pencil on hand. So in the 2-point perspective, there's a couple different ways you can do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on my 2 points being in the corners. So what I'm going to put on here is I'm just going to put kind of like a little, make this end look kind of like an arrow, okay? And then this side do the same thing. I'm going to call this kind of my X, but my point is the absolute corner of the papers. So right here where this line hits the edge, that's my one of my 1 point, or one of my 2 points. And then all the way on the other end, this is my other 2 points. So now I've got both my 2 points. Remember, in 1-point perspective, our vanishing point was right here. So now our vanishing points are on both sides. Okay, and again, there's different ways you can do this. You can move vanishing points in different directions, so on and so forth. But for what we're going to do today, my vanishing points are going to be off to the side. So we've got our horizon line, we've got our vanishing points. So the principle to this, I don't know about the principle, the main thing you need to think about. So in 1-point perspective, just to recap, you had your one vanishing point, and you could make vertical lines, and then you had a line that would go to your vanishing point, another line that would go to your vanishing point, and then you can make also just flat horizontal lines that were parallel to your horizon line. So we'd make the front facing of a building, but then go towards the side of the building would be going towards that vanishing point. So we could have a vertical line, a vanishing point line, and a horizontal line. In 2-point perspective, to me, it's a little more simplified. I'm hoping you find it to be as easy as I do, because you've got 2 vanishing points, right? Which may sound confusing because which one do I go to? I'll explain it. We have 2 vanishing points, so we can only make vertical lines, and we can make lines that go to our vanishing points. That's it. There's no horizontal lines except for what's on our horizon line, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset a little bit. I'm not going to go right in the middle. I'm going to go just off to the side, and I'm going to make a horizon line. Yeah, I'm going to make not a horizon line, sorry. I'm going to make a vertical line. It's about this long, and I'm using an HB now. So I've got my first vertical line. It's intersecting my horizon line. Okay, I've got my 2 vanishing points. So where am I going to go with these 2 ends? Okay, so you've got a top end of the line, you've got a bottom end of the line. There's only 2 places you can go in this. That's it. You can either go this way or you can go this way. And to be honest with you, you have to go both ways. And then on the bottom, same thing. Go this way, go that way. Okay, but we need to go so far and then stop, because we don't want to go all the way to the vanishing point. So I'm gonna line up my vanishing point. Take your time, make sure the line, your ruler is on the vanishing point. Go here, and I'm just gonna go about that far, okay? And I'm gonna go do the same to the top. I'm gonna stick to the left vanishing point for now. And again, try to draw as light as you can. We can always darken things later. So I went so far, but I can't tell if these two are at the same point. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the one that looks like it's the shortest, which it looks like it's this one. So I'm going to line that up. I'm gonna look and see if this is parallel to this, right? So I wanna make sure that's as even as possible, as parallel as possible before I commit to my line, because what I don't want is this line to be crooked, jackknifed in the wrong direction, right? So what I'm gonna do is just draw my line. And then any of the excess, like there's a little bit of excess right there, we erase that. That's no big deal. We'll erase it, it goes away, and it'll look like we knew what we were doing. Okay? And then this horizon line in here can go away. It's inside the building. We don't need it inside the building. Okay. So straight, straight. I got my two straight verticals. I've got two lines going to my vanishing point, and that's it. So I've got vertical lines. I've got vanishing point lines. That's it. There are no horizontal lines except for your horizon line, okay? And, you know, if you do this right, if you get a little more advanced in it, you won't even need the horizon line, okay? What you'll need is your vanishing points. But the horizon line you end up erasing anyways because everything ends up filling up the space. So now I'm gonna line up my top of my line again and go to the opposite vanishing point and figure out how far down I wanna make this. Okay, I'm gonna stop about there. I'm kind of making what looks to be the start of a cube. Okay, so I'm gonna go to this vanishing point. Over. And again, pick the shortest one. Don't pick the longest one because then you have to continue the line and it's a little more difficult to do that. So it's easier just to pick the shortest line, which I could tell is my top line. Gotta make sure that I'm parallel to this, make sure I'm parallel to this. So this ruler is parallel to this vertical line. This side of the ruler is parallel to this side of the paper, this side of the edge of the paper. Okay, and then I'm going to erase my horizon line. I don't know why I did this because this doesn't leave any residue. This is a kneaded eraser, as I've been using in most of my videos. This does not do well with really dark pencil lines, but you shouldn't have really dark pencil lines anyways. You should be drawing lightly. So make sure we continue to do that. Okay, so I've got the start of my building. What I'm gonna put in next is a sidewalk. We're gonna say this is kind of a corner location. Okay, so this is our corner location. Let's put in a sidewalk. I'm gonna give this a little bit, and this is where it can be tricky because a lot of people, you know, in elementary school when you're learning how to do perspective, you're taught how to put in a sidewalk, and it's usually big, and you know it's not in perspective, in proportion. Sorry, it's not in proportion to the building. So if this is our building, how tall are the doors going to be? And we'll get into how tall the doors are, but it also depends on how big your sidewalk is. So when you're putting in your sidewalk, we need to think about the gap between the sidewalk and the building. Does the building have a door that comes out a little bit? Is there an awning? Like, there's a lot of different things that we need to think about when we're putting together a scene, especially in perspective. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of a gap between the door or the building and where the sidewalk's gonna start, okay? What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go right to this vertical line point, and I'm gonna stay on this path, and this is gonna go forever, okay? For now, this side of the sidewalk is gonna go on forever. So since I stopped here, what I need to do is I'm gonna go on the other side, and I always like to make sure that I can see a line that I need to be parallel to the best of my ability, so that way I know that I'm lined up properly. And we'll make that one go on forever as well. So this is the first side of our sidewalk. Just erasing a little bit of this building line that I forgot to erase. Okay, so now I gotta think about the width of the sidewalk. So how wide do I wanna make the sidewalk that people are walking on? And if it's a commercial area, you know, you could be looking at a pretty wide sidewalk so that way people can be on both sides of the sidewalk. I'm gonna go ahead and make it about right here. And I'm gonna go down to, I know I don't have a line here yet, but I will. Actually, I won't. I'm gonna have a line here and a line here. You'll see why. So I'm gonna go roughly till I think I'm to the bottom of this point here. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back. I made a mistake, and I'm not afraid to admit it, that I need to add a line in here that goes past my original line. So I want this line to continue till it hits this one, okay? You see that? So, and actually this line here is gonna continue as well. So we actually have to go past. So we're gonna go back, double back, I apologize. It happens. And we're gonna get that line put in here. And I'm just gonna make it a little extra long because I don't know how long I'm gonna make it yet. And I'll just have to erase a little bit if I need to. So I'm gonna line this up and we'll see how wide this sidewalk's gonna be. Okay, I'm gonna say about right there. Looks pretty good right there. And then make that line. Okay, and then all I have to do is erase these two little light lines that just disappear. No big deal. So now I've got the top of my sidewalk in. It's very flat. It looks like it's inset into the ground. There's no curb, there's no height to it, there's no thickness. So we need to put in a thickness first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go super close. I'm talking really close. So we gotta think about this in perspective of people walking on it. If I make this really tall, it's gonna look, people are gonna have to jump off the curb. So I'm gonna make this really close, and it's just gonna add a little bit of thickness to it, okay? Just a little bit of thickness. Little bit of thickness, okay? All right, and it's not much. You can see it, but it's not much. Very, very close. As you can see right here, that's where our thickness is. So you understand what's going on now with the sidewalk, and we're good to go, okay? All right, so all these lines, we need to finish these sidewalk lines, or at least I'm going to show you how to go through and do them. I may not finish them. I'd prefer you finish them. My students in my class will have to finish them, but I'm going to start them and show you what we need to do. So we've got the lines in the sidewalk, right? So here's a block of sidewalk. We've got to do another line, another line, another line, another line. So this is where some students, some people will get confused. This line is going to this vanishing point, okay? This line is going to this vanishing point. So if we are on the right side of this vertical line, we are going to the left. So if you're on the right, you're going to the left, okay? If we're on the left, we're going to the right. And this only applies to the sidewalk right now. I'm not talking about anything else, just the sidewalk. So if we're on the right side, our sidewalk lines are going to be going to the left vanishing point. If we're on the left side, they're going to the right vanishing point, okay? So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to line up my left vanishing point, left side vanishing point, pick how big my squares are going to be for my sidewalk. Make sure my vanishing point's lined up. And then draw a little line, okay? And then all we have to do is keep doing that, but you gotta make sure you stay on the vanishing point. Always make sure that vanishing point is lined up. As your sidewalk gets further away, your lines are going to start getting closer and closer and closer and closer together as they go off into the distance. If they stay the same width all the way down, you're going to lose that perspective of the sidewalk going into the distance, which will hinder your drawing. Okay, so all these little lines are going to go to this vanishing point over here. As you can tell, I'm taking my time, okay? There is no prize for being finished first. The only prize I may give a student is the opportunity to do another one, which learning is always a prize. Okay, as you see, and I don't know if you can see from the video as well, but these are kind of the same size, and now they're starting to get closer and closer together. So it's going to start looking like they're getting further into the distance, which is what we want. I'm just taking my time. Again, there's no reason to rush. I don't want anybody rushing through this, because when you rush, you make mistakes. Sometimes mistakes are okay. Sometimes they're unnecessary. Okay, so I think you get the point. I've got the lines for the sidewalk on that side. And now I'm going to go through and line up the other side. Try and make them roughly the same size squares in the beginning. And again, I'm not going on this really thin line right here. I'm only doing those top two lines. Remember we put this third line in for the height of the curb? You're not going to that line. I'm going to show you how to do the curb lines in a minute, because that's going to help with the depth and the dimension of your sidewalk as well. This is all doable if you take your time, relax, and pay attention. And this is like this would be the drawing of if somebody was trying to get an idea out there to say, this is what I'd like my building to look like. This isn't realistic where all the sidewalks are perfect. It may be when it's first built, but this is not realistic in an everyday world. We also have the curb won't always, the curb will most of the time have a bump, have it rounded at the top where it goes down, or it'll be a swoop out like this where you can like ride your bike or skateboard or whatever on. And then sometimes they're really wide and then drop down. So there's like the sidewalk, and then there's this long strip of just big chunks of curb, right? So this again is not ideal. This is just getting you the idea of where lines are supposed to go. So now I'm going to show you how to make this a little more dimensional. So in this case, right down here, what we're going to do all right, so in this area, right here, we have a little line we're gonna put here. That just made this a little more dimensional because I put that little tiny line in there. All these lines coming off of the lines I just put in over here and over here, if we drop them, because remember, what kind of lines are we putting in? There's only 3 types of lines we can put in. We can put in vertical lines, right? Vertical. And we can put in vanishing point lines. So you can only go straight up and down or to a vanishing point. So these lines here coming off of this onto the curb are all vertical. What I'm gonna do is get this parallel to that first vertical line we put in to make sure I'm making vertical lines, okay? So then I just drop in little verticals. Now, for how small I made this curb, I could probably just go in by hand and lightly put in a little line here and just try to make sure I'm going straight up and down. It's working right now, it's functional. Again, this is not an ideal sidewalk in the real world, or is an ideal sidewalk in the real world, but you're not going to see this very often. So we just want to put these little tiny lines in here to show the depth of the curb, right? So now we can see the depth of the curb, and now we can move on to doing something else, like we can put in the doors, the windows, things like that, maybe some more buildings.